We have talked about the idea of mocking it up in physical terms, simulating it, if you will, as best as you can. This is still an important key. Once again, you will find that many people who consider themselves to be successful manifestors will have, at various points in their lives, had a vision, but they will actually have play-acted the vision out physically in some fashion, even though it may not actually have been at the moment the quote-unquote real thing. An actor, for example, who wishes to act on stage or wishes to act in a movie may simply go, before they have ever given a part, they may simply go to a stage, to a sound stage, may hire their friends to run a camera. They will then act out a part perhaps that they wrote or someone else wrote, but they will go through the actual physical motion, mocking it up, as though they really are at that moment making a real movie, doing it for real, being a real actor. And by doing that, by taking that kind of action as well, not only acting on the things you are capable of acting on that apparently relate to the thing that you prefer, but also mocking it up and acting through that scenario, you then train, in a sense, your body consciousness to get used to that vibration of that reality. The more real you can make it, the more real your brain and your body will believe that it is. And the more real your brain and body vibrations believe that it is, the easier it will be for you to align with your higher mind and allow the higher mind to manifest that reality for you in some form. So mocking it up is also a form of taking action. But again, we recognize that even though we have discussed this idea many times, many of you will still think we are talking metaphorically and will just do the exercise in your mind and will not actually go to the length to actually physically transform your physical environment to actually be as close a representation of the reality you prefer that you would prefer. So we are urging you strongly to actually take action in the direction of creating in your reality some representation as close to the vision of that reality as you can that is physically present, to make it look as much like that reality as possible. And key off of those representations as though they are real. Which is why it's important to make them look as real as possible. But you can use your imagination in this, but not just to sit around and use your imagination. Use your imagination while you are physically mocking it up, to play act through that and get used to that. It's like rehearsal of that reality. And the more you rehearse, the better you get. And the more you actually find yourself then living that reality. Bless you. Another variation of the idea of taking action in that vision in your mind is to pay attention very closely to the version of you you see in that image you have of that ideal reality. Very often, many of you will have this image of yourself living this wonderful reality. But you will forget to pay attention to the fact that the behavior of the version of you you see in that image is very different than the behavior you exhibit on a day-to-day basis. The idea of seeing yourself in that vision of the ideal reality that you prefer is for the purpose of creating a mirror reflection for you to mimic. So that if you act like that person, you are more likely to have the reality you see that version of you having. That's the point. Observe closely the thoughts, the words, the deeds, the body language, the physical behavior of that version of you in that reality. Because that version of you will do things very often very differently than you go about doing things in your day-to-day reality, because you are making a difference between the two. And so you have the ability to use your imagination this way, to point out the difference between the two, so that you can create less difference between the two. The more you act like him or her in that version of your ideal reality, the more you will attract that reality, his reality, her reality. So pay attention to the body language. And take that version of you through all the typical daily routines that you may have in your life, or that you want in that reality. Even if it is something that you typically consider ordinary or mundane, watch how that you does it. Because if that you is actually in a reality that is representative of his or her passion, that you is going to be doing even the ordinary things in a much different way than you might do. So let's say you have a vision of that you in that reality, living the life you prefer. Just take that you, let's say, grocery shopping. Because that might still be something you might still do, even in the reality of your passion. Now, if you look at that you and the way that you does it, then that's the way for you, to the best of your ability, to do the same thing. Mock up as best as you can, act out as closely as you can, the way in which that you would do it. As best as you can, get as close as you can. That's all you need to do. As long as you've made the commitment to get as close as you can, the vibration will be read by the higher mind as the full commitment. So it doesn't always have to be exact, as long as you are willing to get as close as you can. And sometimes you might surprise yourself as to exactly how close you can get. Because again, synchronicity will support you once you have made the commitment to behave that way and take action. That way, synchronicity will support you and bring about the opportunities to behave that way. And at first it may be a little shocking and a little surprising, but I think you'll get used to it. So the idea is, let's say you're looking at that you and you see that you going grocery shopping. Again, the idea might be that the body language is different as you do so. Maybe your attention is drawn to different products as that you, that are more representative of the reality you prefer. Maybe you will, as that you, hire someone to do the shopping for you. Again, get as close as you can to that you. Whatever truly represents what is most fun, most passionate for you, in thought, word, and deed, and all those behaviors, mock it up, mimic it, mirror it as closely as you can. Every day. Walk down the street and say, how would the ideal me, with the ideal reality, be walking down this street? Head held high, a smile for everyone. Feeling great. Light on my feet. Not moping down the sidewalk, wondering when it's all going to happen for me. Because the version of you for whom it has already happened doesn't have a reason to do that, do they? Therefore, if you are doing this and they are doing this, there is a vast difference between your vibrations, and thus a vast difference in your ability to attract. So, taking action. Taking action is the willingness to understand, the willingness to know that by doing so, you are bringing that downloaded information, that downloaded inspiration, that downloaded imagination, that downloaded vision, that downloaded energy, and you are grounding it, you are applying it, you are putting it out there so that you are creating a flow. And when you create a flow, you empty the vessel, and when you empty the vessel, more can be poured in, and more will come, and more will keep coming, and it will never stop. It will never stop. There are times when it may seem to stop, but that doesn't mean it actually has stopped. It may simply mean that there is a reason to pause and ponder what's going on, and contemplate in a peaceful manner. That doesn't mean anything has stopped. Never label anything as an obstacle.